All right, so we are now streaming live to YouTube. Um, so good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Castorena, and I want to welcome you all to the first generation Transfer Experience webinar 2022. So thank you all for being here, for registering. It's going to be a very informative webinar. I myself, as a first gen student myself, and we will get into a few introductions and a few slides. Toothpaste, yeah. So that's what somebody ate, toothpaste. Um, so let's begin the webinar. So we are currently recording. If you want to have your cameras on, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. We're going to have a few activities in a few minutes. Going to be fun and entertaining. So let's begin.
All right, before we move forward, hello everybody, my name's Aaron, and we wanted to let y'all know that we have a website up where you will find a recording of this webinar after it's done, as along with a bunch of other resources, a little more information about the amazing guest speakers we have for you today. So I'm gonna drop the link in the chat and be sure to check that website out. And we also have Zoom background for y'all to have like this one right here that are community created. So be sure to check that out.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex. Just really quickly before we move forward, I just want to go over some logistical stuff with you guys. As we mentioned, some of this, and if not most of this webinar is going to be recorded. So if you see a green little recording camera on the corner of your screen, that means that this portion of the webinar is being recorded. And conversely, if you see the red one with the little slash over it, means that we're not recording, in order to respect people's privacy and space and all that kind of stuff. So like we said, feel free to have your cameras on. And if you're not comfortable with that, don't worry. You can go and leave them off. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to CCCP's webinar. We are very excited to have you here. My name is Alfred Herrera. I'm the Assistant Dean and I direct the Center for Community College Partnerships. I am also a first-gen student. And while I have been working for a long time, there are still things that you think about as a first-gen student. So I encourage you to get connected. I encourage you to take advantage of this and other resources available to you. Ask a lot of questions. If you're not sure about something, make sure that you reach out to someone and ask. We are here to make sure that whatever questions you have on your path to on your journey and path to transfer, that we provide whatever support we can. So we're really excited to have you here. I want to thank you for joining us and have a great webinar.
The Center for Community College Partnerships at UCLA acknowledge the Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of Tovangar, the LA Basin, and Southern Channel Islands, and are grateful to have the opportunity to work for the indigenous peoples in this place. As a land grant institution, we pay respects to our ancestors, elders, our relatives and relations, past, present, and emerging. And if you'd like to know more information about whose land you're currently on, you can scan the QR code on screen, and we can also drop the link in the chat.
All right, I'll be reading our Stop API Hate Statement. So, Center for Community College Partnerships condemns hateful acts of violence, harassment, and rhetoric targeting Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Daisy Americans. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an alarming increase in the discrimination and violence perpetrated on the PETA community. These acts of violence are nothing new. We are disturbed by these xenophobic, racially motivated attacks. CCCP stands in solidarity with all of our students, colleagues, and community partners who experience marginalization and threat. If you want to learn more, we're going to drop more links in the chat as well.
Okay, and then I'll be reading our Black Lives Matter statement. So to our students and colleagues in the Black community and across the diaspora, we stand with you. You are valued and an important member of our campus and off-campus family. We all need to acknowledge the challenges and work to change them. We must work together as people of color and allies and people who are concerned about the future to eliminate these systemic disparities. We take a stand today and always because Black Lives Matter, and I will similarly be dropping resources in the chat as well.
Next, we'll be reading our QT BIPOC Solidarity Statement. So CCP at UCLA celebrated diversity and intersectional identities that shape who we are, including our sexual and gender identities. Understanding, respecting, and learning how and why an identity that may or may not be visible requires learning to hear and amplify the voices from the multiple communities, as well as unlearning social expectations, heteronormative traditions, and oppression everyday practices. CCP strives to create a safe, brave, and inclusive space for our queer, transgender, Black, Indigenous people of color, in which we can discuss openly, honestly, and lovingly the systemic barriers in the transfer pipeline and progressive strategies to uplift each other.
And now we would like to invite some of the CCP full-time staff to introduce themselves and welcome you to our first Gen webinar. We can start with Alfred.
You're going to start with me again? Hey. Hi, everyone. I repeat everything I said before. So welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Can you popcorn to someone?
I will popcorn to Nancy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nancy, and I'm the administrative assistant, and I'm also a transfer student and a first-generation student. And I just want to welcome everyone. And also, if you ever have any questions, please contact us at our office. And there is someone here Monday through Friday. So I can go ahead and popcorn to, I did see Gabby.
And you're a parenting student?
Yes, I'm also a parenting student, non-traditional student. Hi, Gabby, are you there?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first Generation Transfer Experience webinar. Thank you for being here today. We want to provide you with as many resources as we can that can help you reach your academic goals, as Alfred mentioned. And my name is Gabriela Abraham, and I'm a program representative for the Center for Community College Partnership. I'm a proud first-generation non-traditional parenting student who transferred from Los Angeles Valley College to UCLA and graduated with double major in Spanish Community and Culture and Chicano Studies. I always say that I'm a proud, I'm a product of CCCP because before transferring, my daughter and I, we, transferred for community college, and we were part of CCCP 2 years prior to transfer to UCLA. Welcome, and thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the webinar. I popcorn to Ariel.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Ariel. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the CCC program coordinator at LA Southwest in West LA, but within a few weeks, I'll be the new program coordinator at Pasadena City College. So looking forward to work with those of you who might be from PCC. And I am also a product of CCCP. And just welcome and congrats to all of you for being here. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar. And I popcorn to Beto.
Thanks, Ariel. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alberto Moreno. Feel free to call me Beto, as Ariel just mentioned. I am a program coordinator with the center. I oversee our partnership with Los Angeles Pierce College. So shout out to all the Brahmas in the room, all the first-gen Brahmas in the room. I'm also a proud first-gen, proud non-trad student. I'm also a proud product of Triple CP. And yeah, I just want to welcome you. Good morning again. And I want to give a shout out to the committee for putting this together for our first-gen scholars. And I'll popcorn to, I want to say that's everyone, but I'm going to take it back to, I see my bestie, Santi. I'll popcorn to Santi.
Thank you for those palomitas de maíz, Beto. Thank you, everyone. I want to say also that I'm grateful for the people who have put this together. It takes a lot of effort to do that. Myself, I'm a first-generation Salvi in the U.S. I'm here because the U.S. was in my country, the reason why we had to leave. And during the diaspora in the 80s, I was also the first to go to college. Did a lot of firsts, including being the first, one of the first students to co-found the queer organization, the Latino queer organization, La Familia, also the Latin American Student Association, and was able to help create the first organization by the admissions office for transfer students, STOMP, which is still going very strong. And we're just excited that you get to be here also as the first in your family, and that you are making history by being the first ones in your families to change the narrative in your families and in your community. So congratulations on being here, and congratulations on being the first in so many different things that you will be, because that's what's going to make you just be successful throughout your career. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. And there's a couple other folks that were not able to join us this morning, but definitely send their regards and welcome you to our webinar as well. That includes Sophie Seeholzer. She's our current Pasadena City College program coordinator, Aurelia Reimer, our STEM program coordinator, and a part of the team that, you know, just recently kind of moved on to other positions include Verla Partida. So she was the former LA Harbor and LA City College program coordinator, and Laura Colbert, the former LA Valley College program coordinator. And now we'll introduce ourselves as committee members. So hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here. I am Chely Gonzalez, a program coordinator here at the Center for Community College Partnerships, working with East LA College. So shout out to any Huskies in the room. I am a first-gen transfer student, first-generation college student, first-generation Mexican-American. I'm from Santa Barbara, so shout out to anyone from the 805. Shout out to anyone joining us outside of LA area. Thank you for being here. I transferred from Santa Barbara City College to UCLA, studied political science as an undergrad. And I am just really passionate about supporting fellow first-gen students, first-gen scholars. So I am just delighted to welcome you to the CCP family. For those of you that are new to CCP, welcome. For those of you that might be returning scholars, welcome back. Super excited for today's webinar And I want to thank the rest of our committee members for putting this together. And I'll go ahead and pass on the virtual mic to Frank.
Thank you, Chelly. Good morning once again. My name is Frank Castorena Jr. I am a program coordinator here at the Center for Community College Partnerships, and I oversee the partnerships between Los Angeles Trade Tech and Los Angeles Mission College. A little bit about me. I am a proud first-gen student, transferred from the best community college in Los Angeles, which is East Los Angeles College, transferred to UCLA and double majored in sociology and Chicano studies. After graduating from UCLA, I applied to grad school and ended up at the other school around the way and received my master's in social work. Thank you once again for being here. It's going to be a very informative webinar. So please ask questions, take notes. This is being recorded, so you'll have the opportunity to view the video on YouTube. And I'm going to popcorn it to Aaron.
How are you doing, everybody? Thank you all for joining us. My name is Aaron Spectavi-Tan, pronouns he, him. I'm a peer advisor specifically for LA Southwest with REO. Work a lot with REO. I got my bachelor's in communication from UCLA a few months ago, transferred from Citrus College, and I am also a first-gen college student, first-generation Cambodian American, son of Cambodian refugees. And thank you all for joining us. I'm going to popcorn to Alexander.
Hey everyone, again, my name is Alex. I go by he, his pronouns. I'm also a peer advisor at Los Angeles City College with Vanessa. I transferred from Pasadena City College. I'm also a proud first-gen student. And I just finished up my BA at UCLA for political science. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
And I also want to introduce Vanessa. So Vanessa had to step away from the webinar for a moment, but she was also part of our committee. She's a second-year transfer here at UCLA, a current peer advisor, sociology major, and she transferred from LA Valley College. So round of applause, and a very grateful for Vanessa and everyone else's contributions. And I apologize. I know there's like a bit of delay on my internet, so just kind of bear with us with our technology.
All right, so I'm going to read the community guidelines. So in Connecticut, respect the cyber community. Please keep your microphone muted and click on speaker view. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to utilize the chat feature. We will have chat monitors that will answer your questions. Questions will be answered during the Q&A portion. Step in, step back. One diva, one mic. Challenge the ideas and not the messenger. And do not be afraid to ask. So if we follow these community guidelines, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
And now I'm going to cover today's agenda. So our Power to the First Generation Transfer Student Experience. We will begin shortly with an activity. So we have a fun little activity to kind of get us started, a little icebreaker. Then we're super excited to have an amazing keynote join us. Really looking forward to that keynote address from Dr. Jacoby Williams. Then we will transition to breakout rooms with another short activity that we have planned for you all. And we will have a raffle at the end of session 1. So please stay tuned and make sure you stay until the end. Then we will have a 30-minute lunch break. So you're able to grab some lunch or maybe step away, take a break, or do whatever it is you need to take care of. And then we're going to resume at 12:30. So 12:30 to 1:05, we will be having our first Gen Pride student panel. So we have some great student speakers that will be joining us and sharing their experiences and their knowledge, and you know, a little bit about themselves and how they've navigated higher education as first gen students. And they have very different kind of experiences and trajectories. followed by a community college resource panel. So we've invited a couple of really important resources that we want to make sure that all of our scholars are aware of, and that you definitely take advantage of while you're at the community college. And then we'll transition into a guided meditation. So we know as first gen scholars, we have many different hats that we wear. We have full plates. We have very active, busy lives. We have multiple intersectionalities, right? And it's really important that we are also taking care of ourselves and maintaining ourselves and our wellness. And that will conclude session 2. And so for closing, we will also have an additional raffle. So make sure that you stay until the end of that, and then a closing. And I'll hand it over to Frank.
All right, y'all. So we're gonna do an activity. It's gonna require you to turn on your cameras, but if you don't feel comfortable turning on your cameras, we're gonna use the raise hand feature. So this is an activity that was inspired by a TikTok video, and it's put your hands out, right? And so every time I'm gonna list 10 things, and you're gonna put a finger down every time you experience that or you can relate to that. So if you want to turn on your cameras and just put your hands out. If not, you can raise a hand. Use the raise hand feature. Every time you do, raise your hand function, use the raise hand function. You'll just have to keep doing it. So we're gonna start because our keynote speaker is gonna commence at 11. So let's begin. So put your hands out. First question: if you had to learn how to fill out the FAFSA by yourself, put a finger down. When someone asks you, are you still not done with school? Put a finger down or your hand. If you felt guilty for pursuing your higher education, put a finger down. If you've experienced lack of support from family and friends, put a finger down. If you've missed application deadlines, so any applications, FAFSA applications, UC, CSU applications, put a finger down. If you felt the pressure of representing your family as the first one to attend college, put a finger down. If you made mistakes along your academic journey, put a finger down. If you've, when folks don't understand academic achievement, put a finger down. If you're balancing school life, work, and family obligations, put a finger down. And the last one, if you're an amazing, brilliant, passionate, resourceful, and resilient first-gen student, put a finger down. And so this is our activity inspired by TikTok. It's very short. Thank y'all for participating. We do have a few minutes. If anybody would like to elaborate on some of these, 9 fingers down. So yeah, so how many of you all 10 of them you had to put a finger down? So in the chat you can put you could put your number. So if it was 3 out of 10, if it was 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, you could put it in the chat. 8 out of 10, 6 fingers down. 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Yeah. As first generation students, we're and this is why our theme is I am. So I am the first, right? So first gen, there's a little bit of added pressure, and sometimes it's an imposed pressure that we put on ourselves because we are the first and we are allowed to make mistakes. As first gen, we're trying to navigate a system that we're not familiar with. So if you've missed deadlines, if you know, you've made mistakes during your academic journey. It's okay. You know, just understand that it's a little bit hard when you're the first one and you don't have, you know, someone that you can be like, oh, how did you do it? We're the trailblazers. So thank you all once again. You can put your hands down now. So we do have like 3 minutes before our keynote. I did see our keynote come in. 6, the lack of support and guilt pressure make you feel. Yeah, that one's a hard one. I think when like your family wants to be supportive, but they don't understand when they don't understand the process of going to a community college or going, you know, going to community college and then transferring. And I think that's where you get a lot of like, oh, you're still in school. You're not done yet. But it's also like lack of information. So sometimes like, even for our webinars, we try to invite parents just so we can, you know, inform them a little bit more about the process of being a first gen. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it is a bit stressful when they say you're not just spending hours on the computer doing nothing. Yeah, I feel that. I felt that too. Even the one where your academic achievements, like sometimes they're not celebrated because they don't understand them, and that's okay too. But you know, when you get admitted to your dream school and they're like, cool, or when you graduate or when you receive different like honor rolls and they don't understand that, and sometimes you're like, wow, who do I celebrate with? And that's very understandable. It's hard. We're doing everything alone. Yeah. But one thing is that like, you're not alone though. You know, there's a lot of students that are doing the same thing, and that's one of the things that we try to do here at Center for Community College Partnership is build community. And so you're gonna run into a lot of students who are part of your community college, even those that are not, but like you have a related major and you're like, hey, let's form a group me and celebrate our achievements. And I've seen that process. I've seen that with men of color. And it's an awesome experience when you're able to share that experience and other folks are like really happy for you. Thank you all once again for participating and sharing in the chat. We have 1 minute, but we're gonna get into our keynote speaker next, and I believe Vanessa's here to introduce. Oh, Vanessa's not here? Okay. So I will introduce Dr. Jacoby Williams. So we do have our keynote speaker. We have Dr. Jacoby Williams. He is an associate professor at Department of History and chair Department of African American and African Diaspora Studies at Indiana University Bloomington. Thank you once again, Dr. Jacoby Williams, for being our keynote. We greatly appreciate it. I'm passing it on to you. So thank you once again.
Oh, welcome, or I should say thank you. And I'm happy to be here. I'm a little bit groggy, so I apologize in advance. I just got off a 14-hour flight coming from Egypt. I literally just walked in the door less than an hour ago, so I'm bone dead tired. I was asked to speak with you all today regarding my experience as a first generation student who also transferred from a community college at a point in my life, which I get to in a second. I gave a keynote commencement address, I should say, at UCLA back in June, where I met Laura, and she twisted my arm. I can't remember her last name, but she twisted my arm to have me participate in this event today. So I'm happy to share my experience and then field any questions that you all may have. And I want to emphasize that my story is my story. It may not be everybody's. I hope it's not. But if you have any questions or need elaboration about anything, let me know. I'm happy to expound upon that. So first and foremost, I am born and raised on the south side of Chicago, Inglewood. We spell Inglewood with an E. Chicago, the city of neighborhoods, if that makes sense to any of you. And so the south side of Chicago is huge. So I'm from the Inglewood neighborhood in the south side of Chicago, probably one of the, if not the most, is one of the most roughest neighborhoods. I've been on my own since I was 13. I grew up primarily in the height of the crack era. So we didn't have many parents. What I didn't, particularly most of my peers didn't either. We pretty much raised ourselves. I'm the oldest of three. So I did what was necessary to make money. I won't incriminate myself, but you get an idea. You can't get a job at 13 and you gang banging around the streets like I was. You know where you're getting money. You're doing what you got to do to survive. And I was hell bent on making sure that myself and my siblings didn't become wards of the state. Nevertheless, I often try to emphasize to folks that my story is no different from a lot of other folks who grew up in those environments. The only difference between me and them is I stayed in school from 6th grade on. We had standardized testing, which was Iowa test at the time, standardized testing. And from 6th grade on, I always tested at a 12th grade level. So it wasn't that I was unable or incapable of doing things. I just had other more important, pressing, critical issues at home that took precedence over my academic advice, my academic goals at the time. So I got in the same trouble, did the same gang banging, ran the same streets, did the same kind of weird crap that most adolescents with no parents would do in that time, except the teachers in my school gave me a little bit more leniency than some of my peers because I was testing on a 12th grade level. So we have grammar schools. We didn't have middle school, so K through 8. So kindergarten through 8th grade, I went to one school, Elihu Yale Elementary in Inglewood, Yale Elementary School for those 8-9 years. And then in high school, I went to Simeon for half a semester, and I saved that story for another day. Ended up transferring for various reasons to Lindblom Technical High School, which I didn't know at the time. You had to take not one, but 2 tests, academic tests, to get into that school. And I got in. It was ranked the #2 academic school in the country. And it's an all-Black school in Inglewood on Southside Chi. Don't get me wrong, it was a gladiator school because Chicago is a gangster city. So I had to take 2 buses to train. There was a lot of gladiating going on back then. But nevertheless, I was able to get in that school because I didn't have any parents, any guidance or understand or have the maturity level of an adult. I got in a lot of trouble. So in Lindblom, I had 17 10-day suspensions, but I graduated on time. And I say that story for that day as well. I graduated with a 0.8 GPA, almost dead last in my graduating class. I didn't come in last because the person behind me failed. He didn't actually graduate. He got held back, but I did graduate and I graduated on time. And so what can one go to college with a 0.8 GPA? And we take the ACT back then. I think in California, you guys take the SAT. We took the ACT. I think the highest score you can get is maybe a 30 something. I had a 12. That was the highest grade that I got. I can get on that. So I wasn't qualified to go anywhere. So in the projects, in the Dearborns, again, putting my bodies in harm's way because Chicago, each building is a different kind of gang that's taking place there. But I put my body in harm's way to go down to the basement of this project in the Dearborns, on 22nd in Chinatown, to this place called Ada S. McKinley. They were known for helping struggling people of color, particularly, especially African Americans, get into college. And so I went to the only school that'll let you in with a 0.8 GPA and a 12 on the ACT and horrible grades, HBCU, Southern University A&M College of Baton Rouge. So that was my first time actually leaving the city of Chicago and moving south. That was a huge cultural shock for me, being, growing up in one of the, largest cities in America, rough as I don't know what, to be thrown in the country, literally in the country, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It was hot as I don't know what down there. When I say you walk a country mile, you're walking a country mile. So it was totally different. But it also was a blessing because I was able to meet people from all over the country. It expanded my horizon. So I often tell folks when I'm talking to prisons or talking to youth and whomever, if you want to be successful in life and change, if you come from an environment which I'm espousing to you all, where I grew up, you need to, one, education is the equalizer, but two, change your environment. So a change of environment helped. So in this case, for me, it was Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at HBCU, but I only lasted a semester before I got kicked out. That'd be another thing. I got kicked out of every school that I attended. So I get down there and I meet people from all over across the world, all across the globe. Roommates from Utah, like they got Black people in Utah. All these places in the map that I had never dreamed of even visiting, let alone sticking a pin in on a map. I got to meet all these folks, all this culture. I actually had the best grades I ever got in my life, actually, up to that point in my life, in my freshman year at Southern in Baton Rouge, where we had the #1 band in the nation. But I didn't have enough money to afford out-of-state tuition. That was one. So again, I want to incriminate myself, but I had a lot of blessings along the way. I did a whole lot of legal activities to try to pay bills and pay tuition because it was slow down there, and I'm from a big city. And man, it was just too easy to rob and steal and get money in those particular ways. But I was putting all that on the books and sending money home. But I'll say that story for another day. But there was an incident with the Klan, and I got myself and others accused of starting a race riot. And I don't want to talk about too much violence, but we whipped the Klan that day and I got kicked out of school. And they sent me back to Chicago. So what do you do? With change of environment education, again, I'm no different from my buddies on the block. I went right back to the block, try to get some more money. But I enrolled in school. I enrolled in Kennedy King Community College, where I was in Kennedy King Community College for 2.5 years. So I eventually do get my degree. It took me 7.5 years to get that degree. I go to Kennedy King Community College. I get put on probation. I catch a couple cases, get put on probation. One thing that education taught me to do was make sure that I read and stay informed on the news. So back then, if you got caught with certain number of drugs like crack, you would get mandatory minimums. But the newspaper told me and others and news programs that weed was a misdemeanor. So that's what I dealt with. So every time I got caught with something, it was a misdemeanor, not a felony. So I got lucky. Most of my buddies were also going to jail for getting caught with Tech 9s and automatic weapons. So I got rid of all mine. I got a revolver, 38. Got caught with that a few times, and that was a misdemeanor back then because revolvers and marijuana were misdemeanors. Where most of my buddies at that time were 18, 19 years old, getting 20, 30 year sentences. I'm getting 6 months probation. I got to work at Popeye's Chicken or something, or valet parking at the Sheraton Hotel and things of that nature. And it also helped that I had a transcript with good grades from Kennedy King Community College. So one thing led to another, again, change of environment. So I was able to transfer from Kennedy King Community College to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. I just had to get out of Chicago. I had to change my environment. How far, what's the farthest place I can go that's still in state so I can afford at least the in-state tuition. And I was listening to Frank earlier with those 10 fingers. I had every last one of my fingers were down. I went through all those experiences, filling out my FAFSA wrong, being late, claiming myself. So because I didn't have any parents, so I didn't have anybody who came on their taxes, so I had to claim myself. I do all those things. And once I got to SIU, that first semester, I got kicked out of school again. But I saved that story for another day as well. I was able to finagle my way back into college, back into the university, after spending a semester at John A. Logan Community College, which is in Southern Illinois, outside of Carbondale. And then I transferred back to SIU after a semester at the community college there, and then I enrolled in Black Studies. And I haven't looked back since. I met a professor by the name of Father Joseph Brown, who is still there now. He is this priest from East St. Louis, Illinois. He is, I won't tell you how bogus I was to that man, but I was very disrespectful to him. And instead of him kicking me out of school, he kicked me out of my classes and forced me to take 12 hours community college, 12 hours of independent study, with him. And at that time, I was maybe a junior in college and had never actually literally read a book, at least not from cover to cover. And so first thing he did was give me the book written by Frederick Douglass, The Life and the Narrative of Frederick Douglass, and it changed my life. It opened my eyes. It put me on a path that I'm on today. I read that book and I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed that here is this enslaved man in the 1800s, just the idea, the audacity to have the hope and dream of becoming literate. He can lose his life. And here I am in my third university, never read a book and not taking advantage of the opportunities that he and others were putting their lives on the line just to have the ability to even be near the idea of becoming literate, having an education. So I just felt ashamed that I had wasted all my time and disrespecting my ancestors in that way. And so I dedicated myself to bettering myself and getting my education in a more serious way. I also resonated with Douglass because he was a hustler. I liked the way in which he hustled these poor school children, white school children, to teach them how to read and write by rationing the little food that he did, that he'll lose these betting games with them. I bet I can write my letters better than you, and I can write these words and sentences better than you, and he'll lose on purpose so they can teach them, so he can feed them because they were poor. And he hustled them into education. So escaping from slavery for Douglass was not freedom. It was becoming literate, right? Freeing your mind, becoming educated. So yeah, I felt very ashamed. So that semester, I went from reading 0 books to, by the fall semester, I read 187 books, mostly in Black studies, and I never looked back. I couldn't major in it then, so I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in history. And there was a whole lot of racism taking place in Carbondale at that time. I went to school with Matt Hale, who was this white supremacist from Peoria, Illinois, who ran this white supremacist organization called the World Church of the Creator. He's doing life in prison now. I was in class with the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm the only Black person in class. And when all these issues come up, they say the N-word frequently, and I know where you from. I don't deal with that easy. So I know whooping all these dudes in class a lot. That's why I ended up getting kicked out of school. So Father Brown was able to convince me to take my education and what I was learning in class and weaponize it instead of using my fists, use my mind. That was very hard to comprehend for me because that's just not what I was used to back then. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was 220, 8% body fat. I was swole. I was whooping everybody. You couldn't tell me anything, especially white supremacists. Break a jaw in a heartbeat because it was just white supremacy was just rampant in Southern Illinois, rampant in Baton Rouge, rampant in a whole lot of places in Chicago. And so I just didn't deal with it in the way in which I deal with it now. Then you just whoop ass. That's what we did back then. So I was able to start writing this paper. I wrote this paper on Nat Turner. And For those who may be unfamiliar with Nat Turner led the slave rebellion in 1831 in Southampton County, Virginia, where he and others fighting for their freedom slaughtered the entire slave-holding population, even babies, even newborn babies. Why? Because those newborn babies owned them. They were property to those babies. No one was innocent. And so I ended up writing this paper, reading this paper, and those same white supremacists who I wanted to whoop, they ended up crying like babies. It had an effect that I didn't expect. That this having the unapologetically Black, very well researched, factual documentation can have an effect on somebody like that, on me and them. And so I hate telling Father Brown he was right, but he was right. And so I began to listen to him more intently, and he put me on this path that led me to grad school. So that paper ended up winning the O'Day Prize, which is the best paper written in history in that day, in that year. And that paper was my writing sample for grad school. And that paper got me admitted to UCLA of all places. And I'm like, wow, I'm coming from gangbanging on the block to master's student at UCLA. This you can't make this stuff up. That's because I stayed in school and began to continue transferring to various community colleges and schools to try to continue my education. So I graduated from SIU after 7.5 years as an undergrad. It took me 7.5 years to get my degree. I enrolled at UCLA, in the master's program, African American Studies. I was there for 2 years. I ended up getting my PhD in history, because at that time you couldn't actually get a doctorate at UCLA in African American Studies. You can now. And while there, I got involved in a whole host of things. So I was at UCLA for 13 years as a student, a grad student, as an adjunct professor, combined about 13 years. And then I got involved in everything. So I helped start, showing my age now. I helped start SHAPE, Student Heightened Academic Performance Through Education, where we served as peer counselors in places like, I know my school was Dorsey High School, so I spent most of my time as a counselor, trying to reach those students and counsel them in ways in which we didn't think counselors were able to. People were going through things that I grew up. People were raising themselves like I did. And so I could relate to them in ways in which some of the counselors couldn't, because our goal was to get them into schools like UCLA or community college or any kind of college, but especially UCLA, because Prop 209 had passed and there was no affirmative action. So when I was a student at UCLA, my first year there, we had 33,000 students and we only had 133 Black students. That included football, basketball, grad school, undergrad, law, business, all combined. It was 133 of us out of 33,000 due to non-affirmative action. So SHAPE was an attempt to deal with that. And we were making headways until later Arnold Schwarzenegger got elected governor, and he began to peel back some of our money some of those ways. So we came up with a new method. So we created, myself and a whole host of us, the UCLA Summer Transfer Program, where we spent our time in all the various community colleges. So for me, I was in Pierce and I was in Pasadena City College. Those are my two spots where I went to convince folks to transfer to UCLA. That you have to get an X amount of credit hours, you can actually transfer to a school like UCLA if you're not admitted outrightly, which most of us were not. There was more Asians at UCLA than any other demographic when I was there. So that program helped in a whole host of ways. Then I got involved with the UCLA Labor Center. First, I was working as a labor organizer for SEIU Local 1877. And then with Dr. Huang and some others, we ended up helping as a grad student create the UCLA Labor Center. Some of those things I hope are still there. I was intricate in starting the UAW, Union for Grad Students, there as well, because as grad students did most of the teaching, where we had professors making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and we weren't even making $16 an hour, and we were doing all the work, so we unionized. So now graduate students get a living wage with healthcare benefits and paternal leave and things that we didn't have before, and get paid now $27 an hour, which we're not at that point. I helped also start interracial dynamics, which is, we have a number of required courses that every freshman has to take at UCLA now. Well, back then, but now they do, but back then we had to start these initiatives. And the one that we created was called Interracial Dynamics in a Pluralistic Society, I think was the name of the course. So most freshmen come in, get GE credit, have to actually talk about race and learn about critical race theory. And now we have all this banned book crap going on, but these are things that we instituted back then. And I TA'd for that course and then taught it for a number of years myself. And then at the UCLA Bunch Center, I worked with who was the director then was Darnell Hunt. I think he's a dean now, on the Race and Media Project. We were watching television, and every representation we see on television was a Black person's a crackhead or a criminal or a rapist or something. And so we studied Hollywood, and we began to put these reports out, and they were having this major effect. So our first year that report came out is the first year that the show 24 came out. And that was the first television show, network television show in prime time to have a Black man as president. Dennis Haysbert played the president. They still killed him off the show, which we didn't like, but we were making these headways. And that program is still alive and well. That report comes out every year, and the ways in which you can see the issues of representation have changed dramatically. So UCLA helped shape who I am. It helped shape the activist work that I'm very much involved in, that I was involved in as a student, as a faculty member of the time that I was there as well. So I ended up leaving. I got recruited from UCLA to go teach at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I was there for 1 year. I probably should have stayed there, but I chased the money, which I learned later in life was not the best thing to do. From there, I was recruited to University of Kentucky, where I was there for 4 years too long. No offense to any Kentuckians, but woo, talking about dealing with racism, boy, woo, I had some battles down there with those racist folks. So when I got there, that's when Tea Party just started, Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell, all this, some of these crazy folks we're still dealing with now. I had to deal with those folks. But we had another issue that was taking place. There were a lot of people like me. And so I come to class and it could be a student from law, from chemistry. They all want to take my courses because they don't have a lot of Black men on campus. So I helped start what we call the Black Male Initiative. So what I demonstrated is I asked for money from the diversity office to study the racial admissions process for the University of Kentucky. And what I discovered was not just a Kentucky problem, but a campus problem. Almost every PWI, predominantly white institution, has the same problem. African Americans tend to have the lowest demographic in terms of men who are admitted, but have the highest dropout rate of those who are admitted. So we created Black Male Initiative to try to create a forum for folks to have a place where they can receive mentorship. I just tried to make spaces in places where I went that would have benefited me when I was a student. So that's why we helped create SHAPE and the UCLA Transfer Program and Black Male Initiative at Kentucky and others. I created here at IU as well to try to think about the things that I went through when I was struggling as a first generation student and without any money, any resources, any help, any guidance, no one could show me the ropes to try to create these kinds of programs for folks who look like me. Then we had to expand it to the Black and Brown Initiative because our Latino brothers were going through some of the same issues. Now we just called it Black Brown Initiative because our Black and Latino sisters criticized me for leaving women out. Justly do. So we deal with them too. And so it's been expanded and you evolve and change over time to deal with all these issues that we all are suffering with. So now I'm at Indiana University. I got recruited from UK, University of Kentucky to IU, and where I continued these initiatives and then joined with some of the groups that were already here. So we have this program called Groups, which is targeting it works kind of the same way as SHAPE did at UCLA. So they have folks who go into, they bring students to the campus in the summer. Instead of going in as council, they actually bring the students to campus. And that's how we recruit Black and Brown students into our courses and to our university. And then we have another program called 21st Century Scholars that does the same, but gives scholarships. But we also, as a member of the Department of African American African Diaspora Studies, which is the oldest, most unique department in the nation, we're the only department in the nation that also has a living learning community attached to it. So when I was at UK, we created a living learning community called WIRE, which we targeted first generation students, regardless of race, in that initiative. But here at IU, we have this program called Atkins, where we target first generation students who are African American particularly, and we have a whole dorm. So we get about 400 to 600 students a year in our dorm, and that dorm is attached to our department. So you mostly have living learning communities on campus, and you might even have some in UCLA, but they're not attached to a department. They might be attached to a college or some other kind of union, but ours is a Black Studies one. We're Afrocentric, unapologetically Black living learning community. And that's what we target. That's our demographic. That's what we bring in. And just like any other program, we have at least about 20% of our dorm of Atkins is Latinx and Latinos as well. So I say all that to say that I'm still very much involved in those particular campaigns. At IU, we are, say a little bit about our program for those who may be thinking about grad school. Black Studies is a discipline, just like history, just like English or any other traditional discipline. It is a discipline. We have theories and concepts and ideologies and paradigms like everyone else. And as such, we're established as a department in 1970. Now, UCLA, San Francisco State, and some of these other schools had Black Studies programs way before we did. However, we were the first to establish a department. So the department is more important because it gives you autonomy. You can hire faculty, you can set the tone for yourself, you have self-determination. And so we've been a department for 52 years. And so we have this living learning community attached to our department. We also have what we call the arts, African American Arts Institute. We have a dance company. We have a popular music group, which is called the Soul Review. We have a choral ensemble for those who, I'm not a Christian, but our Christian brothers and sisters, it's gospel ensemble, and they're worldwide. And these folks, we have students who, like Babyface was one of our students, and others who've come through these programs. And I can not to name all these folks, but we have the arts component. Then we also have the traditional degree component for born people like me who do traditional history and sociology and political science. We have poets, we have people who write music, we have folks who do modern dance, spoken word, we have people who do film. So we are an interdisciplinary unit. So we make sure that our department adheres to the very intellectual tenets that as African Americans in diaspora have. So I say that because we ain't just singing and dancing, we ain't sucking jabbing for people. No, there's an intellectual component to it. And so as director of graduate studies, prior to now being chair of the department, my job is to recruit people into our program in that way. And so what I'm doing now as chair, as this department, is very much similar to the ways in which the programs that I was very involved with as a student, as a faculty member at UCLA and others, are very much infused into what we do as a department, just on the department level, not a university-wide level. And so we still get students from all over the campus because everyone is interested in some artistic expression or in some particular academic phenomenon as well. So I think I end there because I can go on and on and on about some of the activist work I do outside of campus. Very much involved with Black Lives Matter, very much involved with the New Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Barber, and a whole host of activist work that I do, because my work deals with the Black Panther Party. And so my book that I wrote when I was a master's student, actually started at UCLA as a master's student that evolved to my dissertation, which at UCLA, which originally evolved into my book, From the Bullet to the Ballot, Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, as a study of Fred Hampton, the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party in Chicago. And that book was picked up by Warner Brothers and developed into the movie, Judas the Black Messiah. Now I say all that to say, I had no idea that listening to Father Brown and writing this paper on Nat Turner to piss off these racist white supremacists will one day result in some scholarship that Warner Brothers think is important enough to make a movie out of. You just never know where your work is going to go. As a transfer student who took 7.5 years to get his undergrad degree. So anything's possible. So I'll end there and let you all ask questions if you have them.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Jacoby. That's just, wow. that was just what an amazing journey you've taken, and most definitely it's, you know, I have read actually a couple of the poems by Joseph Brown. Just by accident, I have read those. Not wow, it's crazy. And the fact that, you know, the Jesuit connection to just because of my own history in El Salvador with the Jesuits in El Salvador. So really interesting. But and I wanted to ask you, I'm going to ask you a quick question, and then we're going to open it up to the folks to ask you some questions. So please write your questions on the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, you can do that. But my question is this: I just ordered your book. I'm gonna have to read that, and but you say from the bullet to the ballot. How much of a difference do you think there is now between those two things? Especially with the way that, you know, the ballot has become almost equivalent to corruption, right? I mean,
yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah.
I do politics for a living, so that's a loaded question. So I'm gonna try to give you the Cliff Notes version and not lecture to you. Because most of my classes deal with race and politics or Black Panther Party, where I'm involved in some political work in some way, shape, or form. So the title comes from obviously Malcolm X's speech, right? The Battle of the. I just reversed it. The bullet being the Panthers and the ballot being Barack Obama. So when I was reading the book, Obama was running for president, and the original title was "From Fred Hampton to Barack Obama." But I don't know if you remember that time, showing my age again. I don't remember back then, Bill O'Reilly was on Fox News then, and all the people going crazy about Obama and the terrorists, Obama the Muslims. So I'm like, if I put Obama's name on my book for Fred Hampton, that man ain't gonna win this election. So not that I thought that anybody would read my stuff, but I didn't want to be the man from Chicago who might, you know, jeopardize the man from Chicago,
right,
president, by talking about he's a Panther when he's not. We're talking about the trajectory of racial coalition politics in Chicago from Hampton to Obama, and Obama and others are still in Fred Hampton stuff and the Panther stuff to win elections. Obama was, so if you read the book, it's not favorable to Obama in that regard. Not that I got any problem with Obama. Right. It's a spade to spade. Everybody's still Jesse Jackson, Obama, David Axelrod, a whole lot of people done it. Now, when it comes to politics, what I emphasize to people is politics is local. It's focused on local politics. We spend too much time looking up at Biden or that orange man a few years ago, and what's going on in the White House and in the national media. No, politics is local. If you fight more, what happened at the local level will affect your life way more than what's coming out of Washington, D.C. For example, it's that local district attorney, who sits on the local school board, that local elected sheriff, that judge that we never go vote. So you go in that ballot box waiting to vote against the orange man, and you open that ballot up, and there's a million other things on there that you didn't pay. Right. That's local. So those local politics are way more important than the corruption and others is taking place at the top. So I always tell folks on the local stuff that that's how I organize. When I'm out organizing, most of these rural white, can't make this stuff up, these rural white, some many way conservative, these Confederate flags in these rural white Republican areas to try to convince them to see their plight through an economic lens and not a racial lens. This is how I have to articulate it through a local perspective. Just look at the local politics and why are you voting for this Republican and you still got the worst teeth in anybody in this county, or your kids have no health care, and you still don't have a living wage, and you still can't find a job, but you keep voting for Republicans. Well, why? What has he done in this local politician to help your economic, your bottom line? And so much of what now is also taking place in Newport People's Campaign and others. I always tell folks that you use your ballot as a bullet. It's not by accident that these Republicans, and I emphasize Republicans, are doing everything in their power historically and especially today to stop people of color from voting.
Right.
We vote, we win when we vote. We don't vote, but when we do, we win. And so use your ballot as a bullet, as Malcolm would say. Put that bullet in the chamber and fire it, but focus more on the local more than the national. Not that the national is important, but the local is going to affect your life way more immediately than what's taking place in Washington, D.C.
And I can see that how you can mobilize local folks much more easier than trying to like create this unmanageable people you don't even know across the country or what have you. So, but thank you for that response. I think that makes so much sense to stay, think locally and to pay attention. I mean, so many things happen locally that we don't even know that they're happening. So
Exactly.
yeah, thank you so much. So we have some questions in here. We're going to start with, let's see, with things like your friends dropping from school and you being kicked out of school, what made you want to pursue an education? Very inspiring.
Honestly, it's gonna sound bogus, but girls, man, all the girls is in school. So when he's dropping out, everybody wanted to sit on the corner and drink, smoke weed. Y'all, okay, but all the girls in school, man. So you get out of school and you leave college, right? And what we do? Hanging out, waiting for everybody to get out of school. So what do we do all day? Nothing. I can go hang out with y'all, get out of school. Women in school. So I went to school. That's what the girls were. And they actually were the most organized. So if you read my book and my acknowledgments, I say a whole lot about all the women that helped me along the way. They were just more organized than we were and more mature. And so when I get to class and I'm struggling, they teaching me the right study habits, or to hang out and study, and you can also hit on girls too. So like, education seems to solve all my problems. Is to be quite honest. You have a social life along with the educational life, to be quite honest about it. But that's why. And I wanted to, when Father Brown convinced me that this would be something I can do, especially when I got to SIU, he forced me to research what can I do with the degree in Black Studies. And I realized there was 100% demand for Black male teachers at elementary level, high school, community college, and university. It was just 100% demand across the board. I didn't know what a doctorate was, but I said, that's what I do. Just because then people, I couldn't do it. Love when you say I can't do something, I'm gonna do it. You can't get a doctorate degree. So you can see everybody in high school now who graduated top of my class ain't doing shit. And here I am, last in the class with a doctorate at Big Ten University. It blows people's minds. Education is the equalizer. You can get whatever you want. And so I always tell people, I'm not the exception, it's the norm. If you can get a decent education, we all would be doing well.
Thank you. And that was Serena Lee. Thank you, Serena, for that question. The next question, actually, I skipped it. Amber Linares asked, do you plan on returning to Chicago and continuing activist work, educational work there as well?
I'm in Chicago all the time. It's a 2-hour from where I live. I live in Indianapolis. Work in Bloomington, but live in Indianapolis. So I'm in Chicago all the time. Be there this weekend, actually. So I'm doing a lot of work with folks up there, UIC, with BYP, Blocks Together. So all these various local organizations. Chicago Teachers Union, because teachers are overworked and underpaid, just able organized and stuff. So I'm always in Chicago. I don't do enough work here in Indiana. That's the criticism I get.
All right, so Daniel Roque is asking, he's asking a touchy one here. Did you stop being friends with your day ones from the project in order to separate yourself from the environment?
No. I didn't say you got to get rid of your friends, but you got to be realistic, man. You can't save everybody. So don't get me wrong. I still hang out, and we still do what we do. I just put it like go too much in detail, but they was. I mean, they knew me when I was a little whippersnapper. But they take care. We're older now. Growing up, it was a little more complicated. In other words, I come home and want to hang out, and they wouldn't let me. Like, nah, we're at war, man. You need to go get off the block. Don't be out here. So great. Well, let's go hang out in my environment, and then I can bring them to places. So Egypt. I went to Spain, Portugal, Amsterdam, Paris, and Egypt. So I take brothers out the block, and they never going nowhere. Come on with me, man. Let me show you a different environment.
I mean, I gotta be your friend.
With any youth person I'm trying to convince to take education too. Just bring people where you are. They still are, they call me names and tease me. Where now? What else they call me? They say I'm doing that black stuff too much. You always talking about that black stuff. But then they can criticize that I ain't wrote the next book fast enough. But they still do what they do. Just love people for who they are. And accept them for who they are, but also realize that you can't save everybody. The idea is to cut some people off because people bring you down. They will pull you down. Family especially, I had to cut some people off. What I did mention is when I was at SIU, Father Brown helped me get custody of my little brother, my little sister, and my nephew, and my disabled cousin. So here I am putting myself through undergrad, and I got 4 people living in my house while I'm trying to take care of them too. So there at some point I had to let them go as well just to get to UCLA. I couldn't bring them to California. So I had to cut them off at some point too. But I did reach back into Sankofa, so we doing Black Studies, back and pull people forward the best that I could. But you can't help anyone until you help yourself. So at some point you gotta put yourself first. That's another Jesuit, spent too much time as one who's not a Christian, not these Jesuit scriptures, but they were right. And when I put myself first, I began to see in all these various ways, unexpected ways. Then I go back and hang on buddy. And guess what? They ain't missing nothing. They still doing the same old weed smoking crap they were doing. I ain't missing nothing.
So you hear that, Daniel Rucker? You don't have to stop being friends with me, okay?
Just put yourself first.
All right. And Kimberly Bonilla has, did you ever face mental health struggles through your journey? And maybe, and if you both can tell me if we still have time for more questions or not. But yes.
That's a deep one there. Yes, I have. I've been on my own since I was 13, man. I contemplated suicide a few times. Yeah, I went through it. Father helped me with that too, honestly. He was the first man to actually hug me. I never hugged another man before, in a way in which I didn't have any parents. I mean, father died when he was 60, and he was in and out of prison for what, 85% of my life. So I never really had a father figure. So this black gay male priest of all people became my father figure. And undergrad in my third school that I got kicked out of too. Can't make this stuff up. You never know when life is gonna bring you. But he was very, he let me be me. So, I mean, when I say talking me off the ledge in a number of ways, you know what I mean? I always turn at ease. I still lift weights to this day. And so I'm always itching to whoop somebody who get out of line. And so he's able to convince me to hone my anger in a different way. And also help my mental capacity. So I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking weed. I ain't smoked weed since Pac died. And I still drink every now and then. I got one woman because he told me to give it a try. I had no idea. 25 years later, I'll be married with 2 kids with this person. That's not what was supposed to happen. It's just supposed to be one woman so I could focus on school. So yeah, he helped me mentally get over a lot of these things. He made me helped me to and forced me to make some tough decisions, which also alleviated a lot of my issues because I kept trying to save everybody, my family, my friends, and things of that nature. So I had to put myself first. That was another Jesuit trait. And he was right. Then once I could help myself, I'm in a better position to help everybody now. But I couldn't do that when I was trying to get where I'm trying to go. You have to reach your goal first. So I went through all kinds of things. And I'm still struggling with some things, to be quite honest about it. My mother's now back in our life. I have kids. And so she wants to meet her grandkids. So I'm trying to give too much personal information, but we grew up in those environments. Yeah, they were addicted to, I understand addiction better than I did then as a child. I'm not blaming them because they weren't around, but addiction is a real disease. And so now I know better. And I didn't get the chance to have those kind of conversations with the old man before he passed. So I already know, so I didn't really feel nothing about it, but I mean, that's weird. But yeah, it made me a better human being. I'm dealing with some of those things for my own children now, the things that I didn't have, that I can be a better father and better community member and things of that nature. So when I'm often doing activist work, people tell me, most religious people say that I'm doing ministerial work. I don't have a religion. I don't follow any religion. I work with Nation of Islam, to Catholic priests, to folks from all walks of life, especially the Methodist Church. They always think that I'm ministering to people. Maybe that's what I'm doing now. The testimony is a form of ministering. I just think I'm just want to do for those who need the help that when I needed it. I just wanted to make sure that that's the only way I can pay back the people who helped me along the way. I can't give them anything. I just do for others what they have done for me. Another Jesuit trait. I'm just too much credit. At some point, I got to say, Black Studies helped me in a lot of these ways too. These books, and you see that I wasn't the only one struggling with these issues. People who came before me were struggling too. How did they solve their problems? From Douglas to Maya Angelou to the Black Panthers, whomever, what I'm going through is not the first thing or first person to deal with these issues. It's always something. So Father Myers knew what book to give me to help me get over those particular hurdles. Nathan McCall's Make Me Wanna Holler. I had no idea. I met Nathan McCall. He teaches at Emory. I had no idea that someone struggled the way that I did, growing up on his own and becoming a professor. He did the same thing, except he served time. I didn't serve any time. Well, not jail time, but never went to prison. I would, but other people who struggle through these things and how did they get over it? Because I did the same gang banging, same crap. And some of the stuff still in me. I can't wear my head straight to this day. It just don't feel right. But so I got to be leery of that when I go to Chicago. I don't wear a hat because I just can't keep straight because that's how I grew up. It just in me. And so some things got through, but some didn't. It just doesn't feel right.
Thank you. And thank you for being, allowing yourself to be vulnerable in front of our participants. I think it's important that they see that as well. So thank you, we appreciate that. Let's see the next question we have. Where do we start when getting involved in local politics? That's what CBD De Jesus is asking.
So depends on what you're interested in. So I often tell my students always get fired up and want to start something on their own. You don't have to start something, join something. Folks are always looking for help, looking for aid and assistance. So it depends on what you're into. And there's a cause and a local organization. So I don't know if you're in LA, for example. I'm not sure where most folks are located. There's too many organizations in LA. Some of my colleagues in Black Studies Center, like Melina Abdullah, for example. LA is leading the Black Lives Matter chapter there, for example. Something you're interested in. It's all kind of LGBTQ issues, immigrant issues, Latino issues. We started Cop Watch again. When I heard about the Panthers and got with some Latino brother, I was the only Black person in the group. 2 Asians, a Filipino guy, and 2 Latinos. And we started Cop Watch. We started policing the police. Radio, awesome. Making stuff up. Awesome. Back in the early 2000s, so my age. Because these were issues like my buddy Miguel. This was issues that was affecting their community. And I'm like, well, this is how the Panthers did, let's try it. Then we end up creating relationships with these officers and change the policy. So there's various things you can do. So I would say find an organization that speaks to what you are interested in on campus or off campus and join something. Now, I would also say this. Don't be naive and think ain't no police in that room, man. We got repression is real, especially in the 21st. So there's always a somewhere in there. So be careful who you befriend. Don't befriend people too soon or too early. Because repression that's not a new phenomenon either. This is why a lot of our leaders are locked up or assassinated. Yeah. Doing good work, you get targeted. And so keep that in mind too. Don't forget school too. And I always have to tell my students this. You get wrapped up into the activist work and forget you're supposed to get your degree. So put school first as you do the activist work. But I always say blend it in, just whatever your activism is, bring it into your academics. So that's kind of why I do Black Studies, because it's reciprocal. So in other words, I can't study and write about the people in the communities that I study without actually being immersed in it, right? So amongst them, I have to work with them and learn about these issues, and then that results in kind of scholarship I produce. But the scholarship I produce will also speak to communities in which I study. I can't exploit them. They have to be reciprocal in that way. That's what we're doing. We're doing Latino studies. We're doing all these studies. They're bottom-up approaches. So it's what's like, for instance, I'm the only, if you go to the history department website right now, you're going to see there's 72 faculty. 72 faculty, just me. I'm the only Black man out of 72 damn people. They think they're so progressive. Can't tell them nothing, right? They read my work and they say, that's activist work. That's not history. And I always laugh at them, like, well, thank you. Damn it, because I didn't write it for you. I wrote it for my community. I don't give a shit what you think. I wrote this for my community. So you might think it's activist work, but my people resonate with this. But I ain't no fool. I'm in the history department. I'm the only one out of all these white folks. So I know I got to publish in the right places. So the published with the top press in history for what I do, which is UNC, University of North Carolina Press. Then I got the top series, which is John Hope Franklin series. So you can hate my work all you want, but they respect that series. Like, oh, wow. I couldn't even get a book at UNC Press. I know. After this work all you want. So they think they're dissing me, but I didn't write it for you. So you can do both and. So I'm very savvy enough to publish in the space that matter. But then you read the book, you will see ain't no jargon in there. Ain't no, you don't need the Oxford version, the English dictionary to read it. It ain't like a theory. You can drop it off anywhere. And I mean anywhere. Elementary school, a beauty shop, barber shop, community center. People can read it, get it, and apply it. That's what we supposed to. That's what we do in Black Studies. Our work is applicable. So change your life. I just read the book and finally say, no, you gotta be able to apply it. And so I'm giving you the tools that I made up. This is what we did in the past, and this is how you could criticize what's taking place now, Obama at the time, and others, and you apply it to your life when you started. So several folks have used the work to start organizations in Connecticut, the New Poor People's Campaign, all about reading this book. And I'm like, well, yeah, let me get involved with you all too, because I want to do the work. And so when I'm organizing, I don't reinvent the wheel. I turn back to what was King doing? What was SCLC, the Panther, what were they doing? And I use that methods that work and then modify them to our current context. So you don't reinvent the wheel. So yeah, you can do both ends.
Thank you. I think we'll have time for maybe one or two more questions. So there is, thank you so much for doing the work, 12 minorities, being a good counselor to the youth. Okay, thank you for that. Leslie Gutierrez and Gwendolyn Flores asked, what was your motivation to keep pursuing education? In educational journey, spending years sound like a struggle. What kept you going? Was it the girls?
No, it wasn't. Motivation was Black Studies, be honest with you. I kept reading books in a discipline that I can relate. When you find your passion, that you studying something that you really love, it's not work. It's just like video games. I like to hoop. So it's just like playing ball. It's no big deal. So when I learned about, to be honest, I'm a scholar of resistance, of revolutionary ideology, of anti-white supremacist sentiments and organizational groups. I could do that. So Father Brown told me that. Father Brown said, what are you into? I was like, man, I just want to beat the shit out of the supremacists. Like, well, you can't do that. You know, you can do this for a living, though. You can write and study and scholar against white supremacy. I can do this for and get paid for it. Here, man. Here I am 20 years later, still doing it. I mean, my living is talking about tearing down the system of white supremacy. That's my goal. And I scholar at it, and I do good scholarship. And he was right. I made a living after being of resistance. And then I can fill my heart and my spirit up by actually being active in community, doing community work with people with like-minded folks and kindred spirits and comrades. So I had no idea that I can make a career out of writing and studying against white supremacy, against institutional racism, against police brutality, against any of the issues that affect my community, against Black exploitation. And that's all Black Power was about. Black Power was for the advocacy of wanting to define their own terms, but not having people foreign to your community controlling all the economics and politics of one's community. That's all Black Power was, not anti-white. It's just saying that if you don't want us to live in your community, then you can also do everything in my community too. Like, both ways, right? So we're gonna, or you're gonna release some power. And so like, oh, I can study this, because that's what we're still dealing with today in our communities. You go in any white suburb, pick any white suburb, Beverly Hills, any white suburb in California, and tell me where people who live on South LA sit on their school board, or our police officers in their communities, or the politicians in their community, or own all the business in their communities. It's unheard of. Like, they'll never let that happen. So why do you think Black folks crazy when we say we don't want you doing it in ours? Now, we ain't say you can't be here, you just got to live here. So if you live here, you can own, you control the economics and control the politics. So when I learned I could do that for a living, it was on. It was nothing to look back for. So, and yeah, being in the class with women were a plus, but you know, they were just better theoreticians than I was. These theoretical frameworks to me better than I couldn't comprehend at the time. But I'm a lot better at that now. I got a lot more self-control. But yeah, just find your passions, what I'm trying to say. It might not be this. This is why I mentioned all the various components we have in our department. Some people like film, some people like the expressive arts, some people do poetry, right? Some people sing and dance, and others like me want to turn their activist work into scholarship or in books and articles and so forth. And so you just find your niche and where your passion is, and you can make a career out of it if you do it well. And Black Studies, at least in my discipline, affords us the ability to be flexible. So we're not pigeonholed. That's why my white colleagues think my work ain't history, because they got a narrow way of doing things. You got to restrict this or that. Well, we got all these things we can do in Black studies, man. And they overlap and intertwine, and it's funky. And that's the way we like it. And I'm a hip hop generationist. So, I mean, I ain't gonna conform to nothing anyway, just to be quite honest about it.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Jacoby, I had heard your name so many different spaces throughout the years that I've been working, and it's really an honor to hear your story. And it's more of an honor that you're here with our scholars. We run out of time. There still were a few questions. You were a hit, that's for sure. And I am, I got goosebumps when you said that Scholars of Resistance. I mean, I think that we're gonna have to rename our program to, instead of CCP Scholars, it's gonna be Scholars of Resistance program. I think that's what we need. That's what we definitely need more of in this world. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here, to sharing your story, and to being just 100% yourself. And I think when you're a first generation student, sometimes you feel that you have to be someone else to be in these spaces, and you really don't. You really just have to make these spaces fit us. And I think you have really shared that with us today. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Just believe in yourself, put foot to ground, and just do it. The obstacles are going to be there whether you stay in school or not. So keep your eyes on the prize, as they would say back in the 60s. And that's what I kept my eyes on the prize. So thank you all for having me. I'm not hard to find. I told you, I'm only black face and the sea of white folks. So now you a history department, you'll find me at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, most definitely find you really quickly on that webpage. So definitely, and I can't wait to read your book. So definitely looking forward to that. Let's do some reactions, some words of thank you. Again, from the center, from all of us, and from the team that put this together. We want to say thank you so much for all of your work. I'm going to pass it back to the MCs, Frank, Shelley, or Aaron, or Nancy. Forgot who was doing the next thing. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Let's give it up one more time for Dr. Williams. That was amazing. So many gems, so much heart and soul. And just thank you for sharing your life, pieces of your life with us. It was truly inspiring. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. We're gonna do a quick raffle to close out our session 1 for the day. And so if you're still here, you might be our winner. So this might be you. Super excited. Thank you for joining us again. Do we have Van in the house? Is Van still with us?
I'm still here.
Yay, awesome. So hold on, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna send you a direct message to get your information. And as a reminder, we are now, oh, yes?
Can you do one more? And I'm gonna donate Jacoby's book. I'm gonna get order too. So I'll donate Jacoby's book to whoever the next winner is.
Wow, thank you, Santi. One moment, let me add my name to this raffle because
Add my name too. Add my name too, please.
Oh, come on, y'all. I know you're all first-gen workers too, but come on.
It's awesome. Right on the cusp. So Xiaoyun, are you still with us here today? Are you still in the room?
All right. So just send me the info, and I'll when I order the book, I'll have it delivered to that place, to the address.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So now we are going to go on a break. So we will be taking a short 30-minute break. We will be resuming at 12:30. So again, thank you so much for joining us for session 1. After the break, we will have a student panel and followed by a resources panel and a guided meditation. So please join us back. You're welcome to stay in the room if you'd like. We're going to play some music and have a slideshow going. Or you're welcome to log off and then join back in with the same link. So thank you so much for session 1. Thank you to our amazing keynote. If you did not win the raffle, we should all order his book and maybe start a book club. So thank you all, and we'll see you at 12:30.
Should we stop the
Oh, yes, please.
okay, so we'll have to be
Oh,
we'll have to
Frank.
be frank at this point. Yeah.